Hello and welcome to the third episode of Bands That Played at CBGB. So we continue to collect some more vinyls of bands that played at this legendary punk rock club in New York. It's not only a punk rock club, many different rock bands and alternative rock bands and experimental bands played there, but it is most known for a punk rock movement in the 70s and 80s and some house bands that made their careers in the club. We already talked about Ramones, Blondie, Talking Heads and so on, and today I have another one that is very important to the venue. It is called Minkdeville. Actually, it was the first time I heard about it when I was googling about CBGB, and I found out about this performer, which is connected to the punk movement, but it really doesn't have any punk in it, believe me. So I have never listened to it before, not on YouTube, anywhere. I just found out that one local store had this record for €6, which is crazy cheap. And I asked the store to get this vinyl for me, and he said I'm too lazy to look for it in my storage, so okay, I had to find another one, and I found another one for €8, which is still a crazy cheap price for this condition. It is the first debut album of Minkdeville. It is called Cabretta. I really enjoyed it. It's not mind-blowing record, but it is very interesting, very soulish vibe. It has some black music in it. It has some Americana in it. It is like rock music mixed with some Americana and soul music. It's a great mix. And I actually read that when the producer was mixing this album, he gave it a listen to Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, and he was nodding with disinterest, but he really liked the song Mixed Up, Shook Up Girl. Girl got me so strung out, I don't know what to do. And he started to dance to it. This is the story. It's interesting connection, nothing too serious, but it was nice discovery for me. So in the 70s there was not only the local bands who played there, but some English punk rock bands as well, and one of them was The Damned. I think it was after the first album, which still is the best one. It's not this one. It's I think it's called Damned. This English punk rock band is a little bit different from other punk rock bands from England. It is a little bit more theatrical. I got a feeling inside of me. It's kind of strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why. Later we became more like goth rock band. You know that time waits for no one. But in the early stages they played straight punk rock, not that aggressive as Sex Pistols, and I like it. I like the first album, and I never heard this album, and I was surprised by some info about it, because this second album was produced by Nickmason, a drummer from Pinkfloyd. And come on, it's two different planets. It's not the best album and it's not the worst album. It's okay. It's a pleasant listen, but a lot of songs are forgettable, and I don't think this collaboration really worked out because, as I read, Nickmason was not prepared to work with a punk rock band, because after he set the drums in the studio they already had recorded a few songs and he was not up for this speed of theirs. I think Nickmason would have done a lot of better with later albums like Strawberries. I really love that album, and I think it has some really intellectual British stuff going on. But I don't have this album. I just found this one. It was quite cheap as well, so I'm happy to keep this one as nice historical evidence, if I can call it. So getting back to the local American bands, not local New York band, but it's a band from California, but it was very important in the 80s, and it is hardcore punk band. It is Black Flag. It is one of the first and the most famous hardcore punk bands, and mostly it is famous for its vocalist Henry Rollins. He's famous for his very aggressive behavior on stage. Fans like to attack him and he always fights back. But funny thing is that you listen interviews with Henry Rollins, he looks like really nice guy. Okay, Damaged is they say it's one of the best punk rock albums ever made, and it is kind of true. Not the most complex album from the Black Flag, more straight punk vibe album. What I like about the music from this band, especially in the later albums, it has a little bit more complexity in the music. It has some unexpected moments, sometimes even jazzy. Still, it has something very unique about it. Yes, I would put that in my favorite list from punk rock bands. Iconic. And I have another hardcore punk band from California, and this is another noticeable act. It is Dead Kennedys. The first two albums are really legendary. My favorite one is the first one, and it's called Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. It is one of the pioneering hardcore punk bands. It is not that heavy as the other ones, but it has very interesting dark humor in it. It is very sarcastic. California, California. It is ironic, it is satirical. What I love about this humor in it, it is very strong social commentary. Actually, they are more like left-wing band. It is very good example of a good left-wing band. Even if you are not left-wing, the messages are really constructive. Musically, it's great. And the best example of this album is a song called Holiday in Cambodia. It is criticizing young people who has a wealthy life and still complains how hard life is and how many problems do they have. So Dead Kennedys, they say, why don't you go to Cambodia and take a holiday there? A holiday in Cambodia, where people dress in black. A holiday in Cambodia. And see the regime of Pol Pot, which is communist regime and was responsible for a genocide which killed 2 million people. So they just say, why don't you take holiday there? And it is fantastic song musically, it is fantastic song lyrically. If you are too lazy to listen to this album, you just listen to that song. It is actually not easy to get this vinyl cheap. I think I paid about 30 euros for it, and it is a Brazil edition from the 80s, and I was quite surprised for the quality of this Brazil edition. There are a lot of new remixed versions, which was remixed without jellobiafra because they had an argument and they split up, and I wouldn't recommend that because if you see the like the standard font of the Dead Kennedys name, it is that remixed one, and you shouldn't listen to that one. You just find the original. It's my recommendation. The original is the best one. Yeah, even this Brazil edition is really worth money. And now I am going to talk about local hardcore punk bands from New York, and they have a lot of important bands for the venue because it was like a new breathing. One of the most important New York hardcore punk bands, maybe not only hardcore punk, but I would say a beginning of crossover thrash. It is Cromags. I would say it's one of their most important albums. Maybe it's the most important album. It is the first debut album. It is very straight hardcore punk, crossovery, trashy album which inspired a lot of bands like Metallica, for example. So the two most important members in this band is bass player Harley Flanagan and vocalist John Joseph, and I think they split up after this first album, and later they came back together. It was never the same. This first album is the real Cromags album, the best one, the best shot they took. Later they became Hare Krishna. John Joseph and Harley Flanagan, I think they both became Hare Krishnas, but this first album doesn't have that. The raw power in it is crazy good. World peace can be done. And now they have like two versions of a band. They are Cromags JM led by John Joseph and Cromags by Harley Flanagan, but none of them are as good as the beginning. Age of Quarrel from '86. So the venue had some more experimental rock bands there. The Swans. Swans is experimental rock band, sometimes industrial, sometimes ambient, sometimes noise, just strange atmospheric stuff. Some people recall seeing Swans in CBGB in the early stages. They say it was so loud and low-ended that people vomited after the show, and I believe that. I never knew a lot of their music. I heard just a little bit. I was looking for their album for this episode, and I only found the new ones. It is album This Year from 2012. Why I bought this album? Because of all the new albums I could find, this was very well reviewed. People say that it's very mature album from the Swans. I cannot say I was that flattered with it. So the thing is that it begins very interesting. The sound is very unique. But for my taste, the whole album was really too long. Hard to finish on a normal day basis. Maybe if I'm in somewhere in the nature, I put my AirPods and looking at the trees, maybe it is it. But it was really hard to listen it on vinyl. I think it's free LP here. I will try some different platforms to listen to it. So talking about experimental, now I have a band from Seattle from the grunge era, but it's not a grunge band in my opinion, the Melvins. The band is legendary, but it doesn't have that big fan base. It is not too commercial stuff. A lot of albums is very slow, sludgy, something like sludge and doom meets grunge. Houdini, in my opinion, is their best album. It's not too experimental, but this stuff is really heavy. A lot of fantastic songs, Hooch. Night Goat. But you have to prepare, it is very monotonic. Whole music of the Melvins is very monotonic, but if you get in the mood, you understand Buzz Osborne. He's not a typical songwriter. He doesn't follow trends, he just writes whatever he feels. He doesn't like commercial song structures. Actually, Gene Simmons from Kiss liked the same aspect about this band. Maybe he's not a fan of a genre, but he really respected that in Melvins. Melvins have this Going Blind Kiss cover. One more interesting fact, that this cover artwork was made by the same artist who made the Offspring Americana album. I think you can probably see the resemblance of the art style, which I love. So talking about this alternative style from the 90s, another important band and local band from Brooklyn is Prong. it is hard to describe. Alternative groove metal, some different albums. Cleansing is the most popular album, but it's not my favorite prong album. It has biggest hits, but it has flaws. It's a very unpopular opinion, but I love Rude Awakening album. It is really much better for me. Somehow I don't think Tommy Victor, the leader of the band, would agree with me. Maybe it's because I'm more like industrial metal guy, and I think this one pursues more like industrial metal vibes here. It is not pure industrial metal, it is groove metal, but it is really inspired by the this new wave of industrial metal bands. Title song Rude Awakening has a video which was directed by Rob Zombie. That's interesting fact, but the most interesting fact about prong is that Tommy Victor, he actually worked as a sound guy in CBGB for a long time in the 80s, and he recalls this very challenging work there, because when the show was on and something went wrong on stage, it was impossible to get through the crowd and to fix it. Later, Tommy Victor played with Ministry, maybe the most famous industrial metal band, and he actually plays now in Danzig with Glenn Danzig from the Misfits. Interesting connections, everything is very local, and yeah, that's Brooklyn. You can even hear this Brooklyn accent in his vocals, which is cool. Prong, my favorite prong album. I'm glad to have that on vinyl. Okay, and now for a surprise. So after these all heavy bands, you would not expect to have Madonna. I was really surprised myself to find out that Madonna was singing for a new wave punk band called the Breakfast Club. It's actually quite interesting stuff. Madonna was frequent guest in CBGB, and sometimes she just took her guitar, went on stage and played alone. The interesting thing that when she did the Like a Virgin album tour, which was a huge success worldwide, she was doing a lot of different shows from small clubs to big arenas, and CBGB was there. This is not Like a Virgin album, that's the next album, which also was a big hit because of a Papa Don't Preach song. I'm not Madonna fan, but I really like stuff made with Yamaha DX7 synthesizer, and it has heavy use of it. I actually saw Madonna live maybe 15 years ago in Berlin in arena, and it was one of the better tours that she made. I really don't regret seeing Madonna live. Other interesting fact is that her longtime live guitar player Monte Pittman, he played in Prong and he played in Ministry, so this is one more interesting connection which makes one more interesting story. So yeah, today we finish with this plot twist in our episode. I have a lot of more vinyls prepared for you for next episodes. I have a few episodes in advance, some more surprises as well. I hope you liked this one, so till soon.